The iterative Python algorithm for the function iterative vowels take a string as a parameter and count the number of lowercase vowels in the string. The vowels are the letters A, E, I, O, U. So the question already said lowercase. Okay? DEF iterative vowels value total is equal to 0. For this is this, and that is that. So the question says, rewrite the function iterative vowels as a recursive function with the identifier recursive vowels. Identifier means variable name or function name. Is that understood? Yeah. Write the program code to call the recursive vowels with the parameters imagined from the main program. Output the return value. Test your program, take a screenshot of the output. So the first thing to do is to analyze this problem. Okay? So if I were the students, I will use my pen and my paper to analyze the problem before solving the problem. I won't go ahead to start typing without doing it the way I used to teach you in the last class. Now, let's take our pen and paper to analyze the problem. The first thing we have to note is find the base case and the what? Recursive case. And what exactly are we finding from this? We are finding the what? The count. The question says count. So that means count is the major focus of this question. Yeah. We are counting the number of what? Of lowercase vowels in the string, isn't it? Yeah. So count. And what is the count here? According to this question, count is what? Is the total. You can see. Because total was what? Was returned. Is that understood? It says that the vowels are, it says that the iterative takes a string as a parameter and counts the number of vowels. And if you take a look at this, after the vowels was counted, total was returned. So that means total is what? Is the number of vowels that was what? Counted. We must understand that. Is that understood? So that means that total is equal to, okay, then we need to find what? The base case, and the what? And the recursive case. So the first thing to identify is the recursive case because that is always in the question. Okay. Now to identify the recursive case is when you count and where you are finding the total. That is the recursive case. Is that understood? That point at which you are finding the total is the what? Recursive case. So that means I have to say total is equal to total plus 1. Oh, equal to is already there. So that means recursive case is total is equal to what? Total plus 1. So you are adding total with what? With the function. That means this is the function and you are trying to add 1 to the function. That is what it means. Because the aim of this function is to find total. Is that understood? So that is the main function. So total is that main function. Is that understood? Total is that main function. So that means your recursive case is when you recall the function, and that is that total plus what? 1. So this should give us an idea of the recursive case. And there is a condition for the recursive case. What is the condition of the recursive case? When, if what? If the first character is what? Is either A, E, I, O, or U. Is that understood? So that means that this recursive case is if, let me write this, if A, E, I, O, or U. So this is where you do this. Is that understood? So what if it is not A, E, I, O, or U? So let's try to understand this code. Are you following me? So def, this is the variable passed, a string. Total is equal to what? 0 for the addition. For x equals to range of 0 to length of value, that means it's iterating from the first value to the last value. Is that understood? The first character was taken. If that character is the vowel, it was added. If it is not the vowel, will it add to 1? What will happen? Nothing is not happened. It's only going to the next. And for loop illustrated what? The recursive function. That for loop is telling you that what? The function is repeating itself. Is that understood? That is what for loop means. So that means if the first item is a vowel sound, is a vowel number, is a vowel letter, rather, is going to repeat itself. If it is not a vowel letter, it is still going to repeat itself. But the difference is, if it's a vowel letter, it's going to repeat itself by adding 1. If it is not a vowel letter, it's going to repeat itself by doing nothing. Is that understood? So that means if it is not a vowel letter, if not vowel, okay, is going to call just total. That is all. Just calling the function, because here total is now the function. Is that understood? Total is what? Is the function. Why? If it is a vowel letter, you add 1 to total. If it is not, you just call total. Is that understood? So why am I using total? I'm trying to look at the building block of the question. Is that understood? So in this case, total is now what? The recursive function. Is that understood? So adding 1 to total is like adding 1 to the recursive function to do it over and over. Not adding 1 means calling the recursive function independently without adding anything. So these are the two conditions for the recursive function. Even though in the question, it does not appear as a true condition because there was no else, isn't it? But you have to think very well and be smart to see that this is an if-else statement. Because if it's a vowel letter, a value is added. If it is not a vowel letter, it does not stop. Do you know? It continues to what? To iterate without adding 1. So that means there are two conditions for the what? For the recursive function. When I say total is a function, that does not mean the function name. There is a difference between function name and what the function does. So when I say the function, what I'm referring to is what the function does, not the name of the function. When you're now writing your code, then you write the name of your function. For this question, the question has given us the name of the question. If the question does not give us the name of the question, I can also use total as the name of the question. But total here is not about the name of the question. It's about what the function does. Do you understand? And if we take a look at this question, what does the function does? It counts. And what is count? Total. Do you understand? So when you want to solve a question like this, go to what the function does. So that you can write the mathematical expression easily. That was why I told you in the last class, once you understand this mathematical structure, then you understand recursive function. If you find it difficult to understand this, then you don't understand recursive function. Until you can represent recursive function in this form, then you are fine. Look at the factorial. This was the way I solved it, right? If you look at sum of numbers in an array, this was the way I solved it. Even compound interest, this was the way I solved it. So until you can understand your recursive function in this manner, then you can solve problem comfortably. First thing, take a look at your function. Find the main thing, the main function. When I say the main function, I don't mean the function name. I mean what the function does. Is that understood? What the function does. So what the function does is now what you now express in your mathematical model. So now find your base case and what? Recursive case. And if you look at this recursive case, the function is adding 1 to itself. Do you understand? So with this, I can identify what? The recursion. Is that understood? Good. So now, if you take a look at this question, we have fully identified the recursive case. The recursive case has been identified. Is that understood? What is the next thing? The base case. So let's go back to the question. How do we identify the base case? This is for x in range of 0 to length of value. So like I said, how do you find the base case? You have to take a look at this for loop again. That is where you see your base case or your while loop. It depends on the question, whether you are given a for or while loop. The question says, For x in range 0 to length of value, first character is equal to value 0. And at the end of the day, value is equal to value this. It means that the first value has been taken away. The remaining values, the remaining string, was passed to the for loop. When you now get to the for loop, the first value is also taken, isn't it? The remaining string is passed. By the time you get to the length of value, what will be the length? It will get to a point that the length of value will be what? 1, isn't it? So when you now pass it again, you now take that first value, then there will be nothing else left, isn't it? Then by the time you pass nothing, the length of value will be what? 0, and this loop will not continue. Then that is the base case. The base case is now at that point where that string is empty. Is that understood? Is that point where that string is what? Is empty. And where will be what will be that point where the string is empty? What will be that value? Or how will you write that? How will you write that base case? Where what? Length of what? Value. Where length of string is equal to what? 0. That is the condition for the base case. Is that understood? What should now be returned at that point? Let's see what should be returned. Should we return 0? Return 0 because when that function gets to the base, it keeps adding. Don't forget we are adding. So my total is supposed to be 0, so I keep what? Adding. So when it stops at the last point, it stops at 0. And when it goes back up, it keeps adding 0 to the previous value. Can you still remember? If you wrote, if the length of string, if string is equal to, without a space, it should be valid. If there is a space, it is not valid. Do you understand? What if that string is a sentence? Do you understand? And after a space, there is another word or another letter after that space, then it's going to stop. But without nothing, it's also correct. Yeah, you can write it this way or this way. So according to this question, at the end of your recursive function, what was returned? So going back to the question, what is the name of the function? Recursive what? Vowels. So that would be def recursive vowels. And you pass a string as a what? Parameter. What is the string? Value as a parameter. Okay. So now that we have identified the what? We have identified what? The base case, isn't it? So what is the first thing to do? If what? So if the length of value is equal to 0, then that is the base case, isn't it? What will be returned? Return. So the base case, if the string is empty, total is equal to 0. Why not 1? Because we want to add, isn't it? Not multiply. Is that understood? Total is equal to 0. So not total, then we should return 0. Is that understood? Now, else means if the length of what? Of this is not 0, isn't it? So else. No, there's no even need to write else, isn't it? I can continue my code because once it is returned, that is the end of the function. Is that understood? So what is the next thing? Then I go to the what? To the recursive case, isn't it? I am done with the base case, then to the recursive case. What is the condition for the recursive case? If A is I or U, then I write if value 0 is equal to what? Is equal to A, or it is equal to E. Okay, or so this is A, E, I, O, and U. Okay, so what should happen? What should you return? So return 1 plus total. And total is what? Is the function, like I said, isn't it? So that's why it is wrong to say total is equal to total when you are working with the base case. It means when you are working with the base case, you are saying you are recalling the recursive function again. Is that understood? So that was the reason why it is wrong to say total is equal to total when you are dealing with the base case. Is that understood? That was why it is wrong, because total is the function. We are not recalling the function in the base case. Is that understood? We are returning a value to end the function. Is that understood? So total is equal to what? Total plus 1. Then that should be what? 1 plus, then you recall what? The function. And what do you call the function? That should be recursive of this. But are you actually going to take the whole value? No. That should be what? 1 ratio. That is all. You are returning with the remaining value after the first value has been taken. Okay, good. So is that understood? So what if it is not what? It is not a vowel. Else. So this is it. If it is not a vowel, it say if no vowel, then total is equal to what? Total. So that means return recursive vowel value of what? 1 ratio. Simple. Is that understood now? So now this is the end of the function, and let's go to the next question. Okay. Now, can you now see that after I was able to interpret this question this way, it was so easy and shorter for me to type. I did not waste time. Then call this function with what? The parameter imagine. Output the return value. So that means I have to, something is returned. Return value is equal to recursive vowel and the parameter imagine. So that will be print returned. Okay. So the next question states that test your program and screenshot your output. So your answer is 4. Is that true? 1, 2, 3, 4. Correct.